What's going on, everybody? I was really hoping that we'd have a lot more to talk about with the D23 news, but I put it in the title that the Thunderbolts lineup was announced. That's pretty much all we got when you really look at things. Everything else, and even that is kind of like it's like B-level news when you really look at it. It's not. You remember back at Comic Con not too long ago, like this year's Comic Con, they dropped the whole, not the whole, but the first look at the Phase 6 slate, and there were a lot of empty gaps there, and maybe ignorant of me, but I just assumed we would get at least some of those gaps filled. I mean, all I can say is with the D23 stuff, we'll get into, more of the stuff that actually was announced and maybe what wasn't announced here in a little bit, but I'm just glad that I wasn't someone who spent thousands of dollars booking a trip out there, booking the hotels, dedicating time, flight time, etc., to just see what we saw. I mean, granted, there was more stuff there for people who were just there, which is great. I'm hoping that everybody who did go there had a good time and there was a lot of stuff that they actually enjoyed. But man, the stuff that they live streamed to us folk who weren't there just left me just asking, like, who is this event for? Because everything they showed, like, especially with the live streams, like, oh my god, the Marvel Disney game showcase thing was the biggest. It was the biggest joke in the world. They just, like, showed a bunch of trailers for a bunch of goddamn mobile games. Who cares? Who cares? That annoyed the shit out of me because they kept playing in little previews. They kept playing. I'm going on a rant, and I didn't really intend on it, but they kept in the previews for this big game expo. They showed the Sony Spider-Man 2 footage in the little preview trailers. They showed the Wolverine game that the same developers are making, who make the Spider-Man games. They showed the scene with Wolverine pulling his claws out at the bar. What did they show in the game expo portion? Not those games. It was just a bunch of mobile games. And, like, if they would have at least shown something, everything, it's honestly the mobile, or not I was going to call it the mobile game expo because that's pretty much what it was. But the game expo was literally stuff that they had already announced, we had already seen, aside from the Captain America Black Panther game that they didn't tell you anything about. They showed a cinematic trailer of some stupid stuff. I know it was some stupid stuff, but they showed a cinematic trailer of stuff that it wasn't coherent, right? The game could be anything. The game could be an RTS. You have no idea. They just showed a cinematic trailer with some cool footage. So it was just it's kind of disappointing. Nevertheless, before I just go on a tangent, and this is just a one-man stream, I do have to say, I do have John Knight here with me. John, how you doing today, John?
I'm good. I'm actually not as hey, I'm doing better than you, it sounds like. I wasn't quite as I don't know what the right word. I wasn't it wasn't quite as lackluster as but I also wasn't expecting I think as much as maybe you were.
This thing, I wasn't really I didn't really. The only thing I had to expect was something equivalent to what they've done at D23 in the past, right? So, like, they set the precedent for what D23 is and what D23 can be,
Sure.
and this being the first D23 post-COVID, and, like, D23 is supposed to be, like, the big everything Disney event. Like, this would be the place that announcements are dropped. This would be the place that you're just you're telling the fans or whatever, you're getting fans excited. It's a hype event. It's nothing really more than a hype event. But I felt like this entire event, like, I had no hype at all. Like, anything, like, I wasn't expecting a bunch of big reveals. I wasn't expecting, like, the entirety of, like, the Phase 6 lineup or anything like that, but I just kind of expected, like, you remember last D23, they announced She-Hulk, they announced Moon Knight, they announced Miss Marvel, like, they announced, like, this is just MCU stuff they announced. All these things that, like, and it's like, we as a fan, you wouldn't even think they would even do, right? Like, we never even expected of all the shows that they could have done on Disney Plus, no one would have expected a She-Hulk show, no one would have expected a Moon Knight show or a Miss Marvel show, like, those 3 things I just mentioned off the top of my head, and they announced them there. And, like, all this, I can't even remember all the other stuff that I announced there, but, like, that was the kinda thing that just, like, kinda was just, like, 'Cause they what honestly baffled me more than anything was, like, they didn't live stream the entire events, right? They didn't live stream everything. But the things they chose to live stream, I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm bored out of my fucking mind. Like, it's just I don't understand, like I said off the top, like, who were these for? Like, who was asking for anything that they actually, like the stuff they gave us from the people who weren't there, just I just don't know why, like, who was asking for any of it? Not that they didn't put work into it, not that the people there did a bad job or anything like that. It was just like it was so just like is there gonna be anything that anyone's actually clamoring about? Like, in the last couple of weeks, there's been just news reports from just, like, The Hollywood Reporter and Deadline and all these things about, like, castings for The Acolyte and the Matt Shackman Fantastic Four being like, him being looked at as a director, that dropped, like, 2 weeks ago. Reports were running on that. And mo so it's like, did they even just announce that now just because there were headlines about it, so they did it, or was it even something that was planned? That's was just, like, kinda confusing. I don't know, but you weren't as let down by it? Was there anything that stood out to you about it? 'Cause to be fair, I didn't follow this, like, to a T. I just tuned into, like, all the live streams, and I'm glad I planned on wanting to, like, stream everything and, like, react to it as it was happening, and I'm really glad I didn't. 'Cause that would've been an
Yeah.
all day waste of my time, like, for sure. But what did you like about the any of the news that actually did drop? Was there anything that you were expecting to drop from the D23 in general?
Well, actually, there's a couple thoughts that I kind of wanted to hit on the top, just right off the top. One is, I think this event or presentation maybe is a good indicator of why DC has canceled fandom, because they can't it's like they can't juggle. I'm sure marketing wise they have their year like kind of planned out, and so they can't juggle all the different benchmarks they have throughout the year. I'm sure that there's some sort of like social media awareness number that they want to hit. And so by dropping certain information at certain points throughout the year, they maintain that social media awareness and that presence of mind in the public's mind. Um, so I'm guessing that with those planned drops throughout the year and then everything that they announced at San Diego Comic Con, that they just didn't have much left. And so DC is probably in a similar boat. Actually, DC has even less left to announce. So I'm sure that's why we're seeing, this is kind of a precursor to what would have been an even worse DC fandom event had DC tried to follow up. And then my other thought was that the oh shoot, it's gone. It'll come back to me. It had to do with what they did announce, but I forget what I was going to say about it. But it'll come back to me. I'll come back to it.
That's the thing, it's probably hard for you to remember because they didn't announce much.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't
yeah.
know that
I'm
that
sure that's.
I guess that would make you think that you would remember it because there was only a couple things,
Yeah,
so
I
there
didn't. I should have gotten overwhelmed by the amount of the stuff they dropped. Oh,
Yeah.
that was exactly okay. So there, that jogged it. Thank you. Um, we had discussed this. I don't know that we discussed this on stream, but I think you and I just maybe discussed it off stream or through Discord or something. But when Feige announced all those drops at San Diego Comic Con, I think we said something about like they've announced stuff like that's out to like 2025, even like borderline 2026 at this point. Like if they keep making these announcements that far out in advance, within 5 years, we're gonna have the next 30 years of the MCU laid out for us. So, like, it makes sense that they had to kind of pull back and not release too much. I mean, they have all of Phase 5 is laid out, right?
Mhm.
If they would have laid out any more of Phase 6, they've already announced 2 Avengers movies for Phase 6. If they would have laid out any more of Phase 6, I mean, you're looking at 4, 3, 4, 5 years into the future, and then what? Do we just not get any announcements until they, for another 3 years until they get ready to announce phase? What would that be? Phase 7 at that point. So
Yeah.
I just yeah, I don't know what I expected. I guess I maybe had hoped one of the things I kind of hoped was that maybe we'd get a new Black Panther 2 trailer. Um,
They did show Black Panther 2 footage, but they didn't
but
release it
just
online.
to yeah, just to the audience members. And then I
Mhm.
thought maybe we'd see like an Ant-Man teaser or something, but that was kind of pie in the sky because Marvel really seems to have pulled back on their trailer releases. They seem to be holding them much longer than they used to. Like you don't get the year in advance trailer anymore. This is much more, you know, 6 months ahead of the movie release if you're lucky.
Which is really how it should be, because we saw, like, with
Probably.
the most notable example that comes to my mind is, like, what was that, like, the 2018 or 2019 Comic-Con, they released the Godzilla King of the Monsters trailer, but the movie was still, like, 12 months out, and by the
Yeah,
time that movie came out, no one cared. Because, like,
yeah.
they saw that all the hype was built up, like, that was the talk of town for, like, that next couple of weeks, because the trailer for that movie's great, but then you gotta wait a year for the movie to come out, and then by the time it comes out, the trailer doesn't have the same impact on everybody, so when they start just re-releasing that trailer or another trailer, everyone just kinda is just like, "Wait, didn't we already see this?" Like, and then you're just like, "Eh, whatever." And then even though well, no, I'm thinking of the most recent one actually, because the Godzilla vs. Kong one actually did well for them, but King of the Monsters did not do well for them. Nevertheless, we did talk about that though, and like about this them not releasing like a bunch of stuff, and I think honestly, I just was kind of under the impression too that based on the precedent they set with everything that happened at the previous D23s and all the announcements they dropped, and you couple that with the stuff that they did announce at Comic-Con, but because in my mind, because D23 was so close to Comic-Con, I figured they weren't gonna really make any announcements at Comic-Con because they have D23 coming up. That's where they would want like, at Disney as an organization, they would want all the big news to be focused on their big event, not and, like, obviously, Marvel's arguably their biggest property. So, like, if Marvel's gonna make any sort of quote unquote big announcements and new announcements, you would wanna save that for D23.
I
And
don't I
since
don't I don't know that I agree with that. I think that they wanted to win Comic-Con. And they won Comic-Con. Like I think that they want on the biggest stage in front of the hardcore audience, they want to come out looking the best. And I think so they would hold their biggest announcements for that type of event because at D23 you're like a better way to put it, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, if you're that hardcore into Disney that you're attending a DC Disney a DC no a Disney convention specifically, then maybe you're looking for more of the special exclusive stuff like being able to see Black Panther footage ahead of anybody else. Like
that's
that
the
that
only
seems like
footage they even
something
showed.
that seems
Like,
like
they
that's
I feel like
special
they didn't
for
even
the
give that, though. Like,
yeah,
from
I
everything that dropped, like, the only thing that was seemed like it was special there was 2 things that stood out to me, and granted, like I said, I didn't watch every little bit of thing, and I wasn't there, but I saw that during the Spider-Man panel, they gave out, like, 2 exclusive comic book covers each to everyone who was at that panel specifically, and then everyone who was in the panel for the Marvel one got special Black Panther footage. Outside of that, I haven't really seen any reports about anything else that was, like, special for anybody, and I just
mhm.
feel like it's kinda like, I get what you're saying, but then it's like, but at do you make all these announcements for Comic-Con at the expense of your own convention? Because if they would have had more stuff to announce, then I would 100% agree. Like, if they filled out even 2 or 3 more slots in that empty Phase 6 slot, then that I don't think anybody would really be complaining all that much. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me that's complaining. I just thought it was like, I thought if I'm just sitting here as someone who didn't even have to spend money and didn't waste my time streaming the event, and I'm still kind of like, "That's all we got?" Like, We got no new Star Wars news. Everything from Star Wars was a Mandalorian trailer that leaked at Comic-Con. You could watch it online for the last 2 or 3 months. Was it as high quality footage? No, but it's the exact same trailer. On top of that, they didn't even release the Ahsoka footage that has also leaked online since Comic-Con. Why didn't you do that? It's like it's already out there in shit quality. Why didn't you just release it in high quality for people to actually enjoy it? And the only two things that like you had all these headlines about casting news about the Acolyte or the Acolyte. I don't know why I keep saying Alkalite. The Acolyte in the last like just this past week, there were like at least one or two reports about casting information, and they didn't even talk about it there. It's
Yeah,
just bizarre.
but was the casting? I see, like, and this is where, like, I'm not. Anytime I hear about leaks and spoilers and stuff, I know you tend to dive into that stuff. I tend to kind of, I'm more spoiler averse, so I tend to not follow up on it if I even catch a glimpse or a sniff of something. I wait for like the official announcements just because, again, I'm a little spoiler averse. But like I thought, like the one thing I heard this the casting was Henry Cavill's confirmed in the MCU, and I just thought,
Oh, well,
eh,
that
I
was
don't know
yeah,
if
that
I
was
buy that.
BS
But
casting, yeah.
that was a casting along with a ton of other stuff, a ton of other casting news. And I wasn't sure how much of that was actually legit, if that's what you're referring to, or referring to other
Mm-mm-mm.
stuff that was
I
okay.
was specifically referring to the Acolyte stuff. Anything
Okay.
else, like Henry Cavill being showing up and being there and, like, all these casting announcements for, like, the Fantastic Four and all that stuff,
Yeah.
none of that has come from an official source.
Okay.
The Acolyte stuff was in, like, the Hollywood Reporter and Deadline, and it was them saying their trusted and reliable sources can confirm that X person has signed on to be in there. Any
Okay.
of that stuff that you're talking about specifically, nobody should listen to that.
Yeah, I
Nobody.
didn't think so.
Yeah, nobody. Would it be cool? Sure. But it's those are the kind of things where it's like it's the spaghetti on the wall. They're
Mhm.
just gonna like it's all these sites that they just like not that the sites don't actually publish legitimate information at any point in time. I'm sure they do. But then they also do these clickbaity things like everyone else, well, not everyone else, but the majority of people who are not a reliable source, they'll just do a spaghetti on the wall thing like our sources say blah blah blah, but then you look into it and their quote unquote source is a random Reddit thread or someone who is just a non-reputable site saying that they have a unnamed source. So it's like, how can anybody verify this? That's always what
Wait,
those are from.
wait a minute. Are you saying that I shouldn't report that my sources have said that Marvel came to an agreement with the estate of Stan Lee to bring him back and do CGI cameos in the rest of the Marvel movies? I shouldn't report that from my sources?
You shouldn't, but that I actually, funnily enough, I know that's been reported on already.
Oh, has it? Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I swear to
I'm late
God.
to break that? Oh,
Yeah, I heard that
I'm
very
gonna have to
similar
talk
thing.
I'm gonna have to talk to my sources.
Yeah. No, that's actually
They're
been
getting
one of those spaghetti on the wall things out there
they're
that
getting
has come
because
up.
eventually something sticks, right? And then you
Yeah,
can say,
exactly.
"Aha, I was right."
And even if they're just, like, slightly off, it's just like, if Henry Cavill ever shows up in the MCU, they got him. Like, they got the scoop in some capacity. Whether or not it has to be the right casting call or not, you never really know, but you at least get something. That's kind of the blessing and the curse of the spaghetti on the wall, man.
Yeah.
But, yeah, in the end,
Okay.
since I wasn't there and I didn't have to spend thousands of dollars, I don't really care. Like, it didn't bother me that there wasn't anything. Honestly, the only thing that, like, mainly actually, like, bothered me was what I was mentioning off the top with that the the Game Expo thing, like, the panel or presentation they had for the gaming, the Disney Marvel gaming thing. As someone who plays video games and someone who has a very adverse dislike for mobile games because they're so predatory on like kids in particular, but it's just
Sure.
pay to win loot box bullshit. Every single game they presented, minus two, were just mobile games. And
Mhm.
it's like, dude, Who is this for? You're gonna hype up a game presentation when you're literally showing like quote unquote AAA good games in your trailer for it in the Spider-Man and Wolverine games, even though it's coming from the same developer, funny thought, but nevertheless, how are you gonna even you're like showing that as part of a teaser for your expo, for your presentation. And when that presentation happens, you don't even have the balls to just replay the same trailer that's already been released just to showcase something. You just
Yeah.
don't say a goddamn thing about it. I think
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
I did not. So this is another. I think I'll say this. I didn't pay attention to any of the game stuff. I got on today and looked up and looked at what they had announced or lack of announcements from it. But I had it. I didn't watch the like hype trailer or for it or anything. Um, and so I think maybe like your expectations were higher than mine for the just in general for this whole for all of D23.
Dude, there were
I
no
really didn't.
expectations. No
Okay,
expectations. I need to be clear. They set this precedent on themselves. And
but
I sat there and actually tuned into the Game Expo thing because I wanted to see Spider-Man stuff and I
yeah,
wanted to see the Wolverine stuff because
yeah,
they were advertising the Spider-Man and Wolverine stuff. And I shit you not, at the end of their presentation, they play a sizzle reel that shows footage from the Spider-Man game and shows footage from the Wolverine game. And they didn't talk about it during the entire event.
yeah.
So, like, they have the audacity to tease the stuff, hype up the event, showcase footage from those games, but then when the time comes, they don't mention it. The thing ends, and they play another sizzle reel that showcases that footage once again.
Well,
That's ridiculous.
I was gonna say, as someone who didn't see any of that, didn't see any of the stuff leading up to it, didn't watch it. I got on just to see what had come out of it. Late last night or early this morning, I can't remember when I looked it up, and I was just like, "Wait a minute!" They announced a Captain America Black Panther game that they don't even have a title for, let alone footage
N
from.
Yeah,
That game's
no
not coming out.
title.
That game's
Yeah.
not coming out till 2026. Are you kidding me? Like that game's 4 years away. I
Dude,
bet
speaking of
at
which,
best.
yeah, at best for a game, especially because we have
Yeah.
no idea how long it's been in development. It's the first news we've gotten out of it. Like, who the hell knows? But they did
Why
the
would
same thing with like Secret Invasion and oh, dude, oh my god, they re-announced Armor Wars.
Yes, I saw that.
It's
That
already
drove me.
been announced. Like, are
I
you fucking kidding me,
I
dude?
I saw that on a website today. They were
Oh my
like,
god.
and they confirmed that Don Cheadle will be coming back for Armor Wars. I was like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
that's not
They
news.
confirmed that 3 years ago or
Yeah,
something. Like,
like this is not news. This is ridiculous, and it's not. They didn't even show footage for it. They
that's
showed he was.
hilarious.
It's like they saw they put Don Cheadle in the Secret Invasion trailer, so they just were like, "Ooh, we could just announce that again." Like
Yeah,
that's the only thing that comes to mind is like we showed
they
Don Cheadle, so now we're just gonna say Don Cheadle thing's coming. They
the
forgot
one
about that.
the one site I looked at said that they gave it's a new Armor Wars logo or something that they used
It is.
on the it's like, "Oh, wow. You went to the trouble of updating the logo, thanks."
If they would have said, "Here's the new Armor Wars logo," it wouldn't be as offensive, I
I think
guess.
yeah, I agree. At
But it's
least they
like,
would be admitting to the fact that all they were announcing was an updated logo.
yeah, it oh my god, that was just so stupid. I couldn't believe that because, like, obviously, they didn't even as far as I know, they didn't even stream the actual presentation bit for Marvel, like, because I never saw that pop up in my feed anywhere for me to actually watch it. I just learned about it after the fact, but because it was, like, the thing it said, like, the Marvel presentation was streaming at, like, 5 p.m. Pacific time, so then I click on it, and it's just these 2 dudes talking about the history of Spider-Man. So I thought, "Okay, well, maybe they're leading up to something with this, like, maybe they're gonna announce something with Spider-Man." And I knew they had in their little, like, schedule something about celebrating the history of Spider-Man, and I was like, "Fine." But it literally says, like, "Marvel presentation, 5 p.m.," and then they were just showing the Spider-Man thing that inevitably led to nowhere. It was just these 2 dudes. Granted, these 2 dudes, I forget their name, but they work. at Marvel and they're working on the Spider-Man comics, so, like, they're fine, they did their thing, but it's just like, I feel like they needed better communication with the audience in general for this entire event and the things that they were and were not streaming and what they were, because, like, on Disney's official YouTube channel for the whole thing, they just said, like, Disney Expo, and it was live, and you know what else was annoying about their stream? They didn't even have DVR enabled, so you couldn't even rewind or skim through to see anything that you missed. You had to be watching it live, and you were just stuck there with whatever they were showing. So you couldn't
Yeah,
even skim back through during their stream to see what you missed. Like, who does that? Because 'Cause they're keeping the video up, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure I could go pull the video up, but it's the fact that they didn't have it enabled to where I could skim through. Like, are you crazy? Like, I don't I just thought that was so stupid.
yeah.
Oh, I don't wanna just shit on the whole thing, but, like, at the
I
end of the
wonder
day,
if
I just ugh.
I wonder if this is an intentional, I don't know what the right word, intentional shift that they're doing in what, because I really feel like they want D23 to be this fan event that maybe they're trying to pull back from maybe they incorporated some of the online components in years past, and especially the past 2 years because of the pandemic. So they used this event as a platform to do some announcements. But if internally they're saying like our intention with this event is to be a more fan centric in person event, not about not about announcing things, not about marketing ourselves, but just a kind of like a celebration of Disney. That's all it is. A celebration of all things Disney, and that's their intent for this going forward. And so they pulled back a lot on a lot of the announcements. They kept some of it because they knew people expected that based on what they had done previously. But now that things like Comic-Con are back and other events are back, they're shifting their focus to save news releases for things like that. I don't know. I'm just speculating as to why this seems so underwhelming, in a lot of ways.
Well, the only thing that I think, like, going back to kinda the Comic-Con thing, if that was the case, why would they announce so much stuff at something that's not their event? That's the thing that I just find so odd. Like, you got
I mean,
more news, at least for Marvel, out of something that wasn't even their own event.
but historically, that's where these information, I'm trying to think of the right word. These releases, these news stories, have happened. They've happened at comic book convention. They've happened at San Diego Comic Con. They've happened at um, oh, what's the other big one that they do out? There's a couple other big ones. New York Comic Con, C2E2. They usually try and have like at least some sort of presence at these big conventions to try and build on the hype of that's around the convention already, I guess.
Exactly.
And so I guess that's why I'm thinking that I'm wondering if just they've decided that, hey, we're not gonna worry about releasing stuff at our own event. We don't care about our own events or our own events. People will tune into our own events because they like our events. They're not gonna what we have to do is so it's like running a television show opposite another popular television show. You're not only trying to make your show popular and like have it have a lot of people, but you're also trying to take away from the other people's hype or news or whatever. So like if they're releasing them at the comic conventions, then let's say DC drops something real big, but Marvel, let's see DC announces, their new Superman movie, but then Marvel comes out and they're like Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to play Iron Man in the last Avengers movie, and then like right away people are like, oh yeah, DC's doing a Superman movie, but did you hear about Robert Downey Jr. coming? Like, just that kind of one-upsmanship, that kind of like, we're going to stay the leaders of the pack, but we're going to do it on the same court. We're going to fight it out on the same court. I don't know. That's my best guess as to why they're.
That's all valid, but Doing that at the expense of the people who show up to your convention, I don't get that. It's like, so literally, like, you have all these people who show up for D23, and you like, let's call a spade a spade. A lot of people were there for the Marvel stuff, like, in particular, right? Even though, like, I'm sure there obviously weren't gonna be as many people there for, like, the game thing, obviously, like, that's fine. But, like, even the things outside of Marvel and outside of the game thing, what was new from Disney?
Yeah, I
What was it? What did you give the fans who paid to come to your convention? What was like what how did your convention should be better than Comic-Con? It's your convention. Why would you want people to come back to you? You need to one up yourself, or no one's going to come back to your convention. Why would they bother? Okay, yeah, people got. If I wanted to go to D23 or Comic Con, I'd have to get a flight, a hotel, time off of work, all of these things. Not everybody lives 10 minutes away from the convention center for either location. So you're asking people to take time out of their lives and like spend a lot of money, go here and spend time waiting in lines and doing like 80 to 90% of people who even go to these things don't even get into the panels. So it's like you should be rewarding the people that are spending time and money and effort and everything into giving them the absolute best experience they could possibly give. And if they can look back and see that a third party event that's not even hosted by you was better for what they were looking for, why the hell would anybody want to come back? Like, you know what I mean? I just think it's kinda, like, counterintuitive to, I think Marvel in particular should have just not done the Phase 6 slate and saved that for this, and it would have been a better event. If they would've just announced the rest of Phase 5, which is really just Thunderbolts, I can't really remember anything else that filled out Phase 5 other than the Thunderbolts. And then at this event, announced the cast and then showed the little Phase 6 thing that only had Fantastic Four and 2 Avengers movies on it. But, like, you take the Phase 6 little preview and compare that to what Marvel gave us now, that's still more. Like, it would have been a lot better. Like, it would have given people there at least something to be excited about. I just feel like if I was there, man, I feel like I would have been really disappointed because as someone who's not there and really didn't care, I'm just kind of, like, confused as to what the outcome was based on like I said, the previous precedent they've already set for D23. Like, cause I get your point where, like, yeah, the one-upsmanship and all that stuff's great, but, like, in the end, their whole goal with D23 is to not they don't wanna do Comic-Con anymore. They want people to come to just D23 instead. They want D23 to be the landmark event for all Disney stuff. Like, DC was doing the same thing. Even this past year, Marvel and DC were not confirmed to even be going to Comic-Con until, like, a week or 2 before it happened. Did, like, it actually come out that they were even gonna go, if I remember correctly? Like, and they didn't even go. Marvel wasn't even there the previous year, if I'm not mistaken. It was, like, just DC, I think. Like, they don't wanna have to go. Why would they, as an organization, especially if they're scheduling them so close to each other, right? It's like, why would we go to Comic-Con? And you gotta think of the logistics of it too. They can't expect all the talent who comes out on stage to be able to go to both places, so it's, like, kind of a scheduling thing too. There's a lot of logistics involved in either of them, but I don't know. I don't wanna just keep ranting about it. I just think it's a little weird that, like, you tune into some of these things, you wanna like, as a company who wants to control the news cycle for the weekend, you'd think they'd actually release some news, right? Like, that's kind of where I'm coming from, because like, I can't even like, the only things I had really even noted down was, like, they announced that, we talked about this before, on one of the She-Hulk after shows that, like, the leader might appear in She-Hulk because they brought Abomination back, and they confirmed that he's coming back for Captain America 4. Cool, but they didn't like give you any additional details or anything. Not that they needed it, but it was just like that's all. They didn't give you any more details about Captain America 4. It was pretty much just like we already knew the movie was coming. We knew the title, and the leader's going to be in it. So it was just like one little thing added to it. Not that crazy of a thing. They said that the Marvels is going to be an action comedy movie. You kind of got that from watching the post credit scene of the finale of Miss Marvel. That's not really news. Like that's just kind of like I don't know, kind of expected really. Matt Shackman being the confirmed director for Fantastic Four. That was in the news cycle a week or two leading up to this event. The trailer for Werewolf by Night, the trailer for Secret Invasion, the re-announcement of Armor Wars. That might be the most ridiculous thing that happened the entire time, if I'm being honest. Like, when I saw that, like, sites were reporting that, I was like, "Dude, what? Am I looking at news from, like, the 2021? Like, what is happening right now?" And then the Games Expo thing was just the Mobile Game City. It was so annoying. I don't know. I thought it was very disappointing event. I just hope that, like I said at the very beginning, I hope that anybody who actually paid money and spent time to go had a fucking great time. And like they actually got like they enjoyed it. They feel like they got their money's worth because as someone who didn't have to pay anything from the outside looking in, it seems like a joke of an event. Like out of everything they live stream and the news that came out of the things that we didn't see, boy, oh boy, would I have been disappointed if I paid money to go to this thing. And I'm not
Yeah.
even saying that as someone who really gives a shit whether it's good or not. That's just like, man, like, cause like I said, you want this thing to control the news cycle with your what you were saying with like trying to one up. You know, if you go to Comic Con and you're Marvel, you want your presentation to be better than DC's. You want to have the best presentation there, and this is your event. And I feel like everything that happened was just so abysmally disappointing. Like, no words for it really other than that. I don't know. Was there anything that stood out to you though about like what did or didn't happen? We can
To be
wrap
honest, I
up
mean,
the
like,
recap.
yeah, I was actually excited. The Werewolf by Night thing took me off guard. I don't know if they've talked about that before. I didn't. If they have, somehow
They
I've
did.
missed that.
It's directed by
Um,
Michael Giacchino, the composer
okay,
of like the
yeah,
Batman and stuff. The weird thing is,
yeah.
I thought that was initially reported that it was going to be an animated series. So that threw me off when I first saw the trailer because I was like, wait a minute, wasn't this supposed to be animated or am I thinking of something else? But
Well,
whatever.
and I'm also very confused as to what it is. Like, is this supposed to just be like a, for lack of a better way to put it, like a what if story or something? Like, because it doesn't really seem like it's something that's going to fit into the MCU proper. And it says it had some weird, not weird, but it had some very distinctive, like a Marvel Studios project or something. Anyway, the way they described it was didn't seem like it was real tied in. But I can't think of anything else that they've done so far that hasn't been tied in heavily to the MCU. So that took me a little bit. I wasn't expecting that. I thought that was kind of cool. Um, the Secret Invasion trailer, I was glad to see it. It definitely cements in my mind that they're not just adapting the comic book story. They're not even really like they're taking one specific element from it and kind of creating their own story. It seems like, which is that the scrolls are taking over key positions, but not necessarily superheroes. There was always in my head the I don't know if hope is the right word, but the kind of the expectation that maybe we would see like, for lack of a better word, maybe Captain Marvel shows up and then throughout the course of the show it's revealed that she's been a scroll for X amount of time or something. Because that was the whole premise of Secret Invasion in the comics was that, you know, X number of heroes have been replaced by scrolls, and like which
Mhm.
heroes have we been following that have been scrolled? Like that was a huge, huge thing when it came out. It was such a fun and interesting story arc, and this seems to be more take that idea, but kind of not so much that they've replaced heroes, that they've more just replaced people of influence or power, which is still, I think, going to be a fun show and it's going to be interesting. Just not quite the stakes that the comic series had. And then finally, I was super happy to see the cast of Thunderbolts because we've actually speculated about that some. Just um, we talked about maybe what was Wong trying to bring people together for it, and other things. And the cast is um, interesting. I was not expecting Ghost to be back in any way in a Marvel project, so seeing her pop up there was interesting, along with Taskmaster. Two characters that thought they might kind of just be done with and not really do too much more with. So that was, and then David Harbour is Red Guardian. Like that was such a big name to get for that role to kind of play a part that really didn't leave itself open for more exploration in the future. And so it's interesting to me that they're bringing them back. And then I'm a I'm big on the Captain America universe, and so I love Falcon and Winter Soldier, and so I'm glad Bucky's back, and we'll see how he there's got to be some good interplay between him and John Walker, in that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to this. I thought the cast for this was I'm gonna say good, good.
Most notably, though, I just have the immediate thing I saw, and it wasn't
Mhm.
Elaine Bennis. The immediate thing I saw was there's just 3 super soldiers.
True. Yeah.
That's granted, completely different personalities, so if they actually lean more into just actually telling a good character-driven story, then cool. But that's not really what Marvel does. So I'm kind of concerned about, like, the lack of diversity in the team as far as, like, what they can showcase because it's Marvel and they like to do their comedy, they like to do their big action set pieces. You don't really get a hard-hitting character drama or, like, interplay with character dynamics, it's not the Batman, you know what I mean? It's they're good movies, I love
Yeah.
them, but, like, they're very similar characters was the first thing that stood out to me. On the surface, similar characters. As individual people, they're very different, which could be very interesting. I was very confused as to why we didn't have, like, a Baron Zemo here, though. Like, that's the other thing that really stood out to me
Yeah, that's
because.
a glaring omission from this group.
Yeah, because I pretty much speculated everybody could have been in this other than Ghost. I would have never thought they would bring back, honestly. But at some point in time, everyone else was on the table for this team. I didn't really expect David Harbour to be there as Red Guardian because they already had Bucky and secret agent, or US agent. So I thought it
Yeah.
would just be kind of counterintuitive to have another super soldier. But again, personality wise, if they lean into that, that should be really fun. And then with Yelena being there, that was kind of another reason I didn't expect him to be there because we already have Elena from that quote unquote same, side pocket universe, if you will. But the fact that they are there and they could also tie in the father daughter dynamic to that relationship, if they focus on that stuff, could be really fun. But I don't know. The glaring omission, obviously, other than Zemo, would be I don't see a big red guy. Like, what are they gonna have a Red Hulk in this? Because I feel like without Venom
So
and without Red Hulk, it's pretty
I s-
much just Marvel's answer to Suicide Squad.
Well, that's what I was wondering if it's just their version of Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I saw some of that. I saw some Twitter chatter about lack of Red Hulk, and I get it. It's Red Hulk is kind of a staple of the team on the comics.
He is.
Um, but just like we got done talking about with Secret Invasion, like they have they've begun diverging quite a bit from like straight adaptations, and who knows, maybe there'll be something that happens in this movie that leads to a Thunderbolts 2 and a Red Hulk emergence later on.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know, but
Well, and the 2, to that point, they have always diverged. They've never
yeah, no, they've never
retold
done
us.
straight.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
didn't do a Sandman.
which
Like,
is
that
good
never
because
happened. Yeah.
ultimately I think that would be boring for those of us that read the comics. That would be incredibly
Tell that
boring
to
to
all the
just
comic readers who whine and cry about every little detail that is different from the story they've
I,
already fucking read.
I know,
Like,
but
it
like
drives me
I
nuts.
as much as like it would be so cool to see a live action like straight adaptation of Secret Invasion and see them go, go to battle, and like that would be really cool. But the ending of it would be so anticlimactic. You know what the ending was the whole entire time. So the only reason it would be cool is just because you'd be seeing a live action version of it. The story element, the surprises, all that would be lost and gone. And so I like that they, pay homage to those things and use the same names and the same kind of ideas, but play them out in different ways. I think that is one of the things
Well,
that
that's
Kevin
just like
Feige
the
has done so
comics.
well.
That's just like I think comic readers who complain about that stuff forget that they do the same thing in the comics when
For
they
sure.
do new runs. There's
Yeah.
new writers, there's new artists, they come on and they do their run of the Thunderbolts, they do their run of Spider-Man, they do their run of Superman, and it's different from the one before that. But they don't
They don't just
complain.
rehash
Like,
the
yeah,
last
it's
they
not
don't
the
just
same
rehash
thing.
yeah,
Like, granted, yeah, I get where the surprise or disappointment or annoyance, or I get where all of it comes from, but at the end of the day, what you should really care about is, are they telling a good story and are the characters good? Like, that's pretty
um,
much it. And, like, with this cast, I mean, aside from Ghost and Taskmaster, all of these characters were good. So they really just need to tell the story. I mean, I'll watch Elaine Bennis in anything, and she'll always be Elaine Bennis. Julia Louise Dreyfus will always just be. I know her name, so like trust me, I know her name, but I'm gonna always say Elaine Bennis if I can. And but yeah, like that's my only concern really with this cast is kind of like what I just said is just Ghost was kind of lackluster, and then Taskmaster was very lackluster, and I guess her respective show or movie rather. So like I didn't mind like the gender bend, I didn't mind any of that. It was just the way Taskmaster was utilized in that movie. The way everything was utilized in that movie was kind of lackluster in general. So my only concern is like they really need to flesh out those 2 characters to make this really compelling. But I don't wanna spend a ton of time with them because they're already not very compelling. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword that they kinda have to, like they're gonna have to deal with that in some capacity because I feel like the most people, especially the general audience, right? Like you and I, we're gonna watch this movie, we don't care. Like, even though I'm, like, saying that, like, those 2 characters suck in a lot of ways from what we've seen, I'm still going to watch the movie, but if I think those characters suck, then I'm sure, like, somebody's mom really doesn't care about those characters. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But I do have someone I've said from day 1 too, I'm just gonna throw this out there, who I think should be Red Hulk, because I never thought they could go the route with William Hurt being. I mean, he is Red Hulk in the comics, I get that, but given it was William Hurt and he was an older gentleman while he was with us. Now he's no longer with us. Even when he was with us, I always thought, who should play Red Hulk, who's already in the MCU, is Martin Freeman, whose last name is also Ross, who is also a government agent. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, that would
Like, I
yeah,
just
that
thought,
would
like,
work.
that should be your Red Hulk because he's right there. His last
Hmm.
name's Ross. Just let him be the Ross who becomes Red Hulk, and then everybody wins. We would have still had William Hurt at the time when he was still with us, and then we'd still have a Red Hulk who was like he's just a government agent guy. It doesn't really matter who it is, but at least you're
Hmm.
keeping the Ross last name. You could literally just make him a colonel or something. So, like, you give him the same rank as William Hurt had. He was a Secretary of Defense last time we saw him. So, like, just promote him to Secretary of Defense in the MCU, and then you pretty much have the same character. Just he didn't have the Thunderbolt nickname. That was it.
Do you
That
think
was my bet.
with Ghost being on this team, do you think we get Lawrence Fishburne's Bill Foster back? They had such a it would just be I'm guessing he wouldn't have a that was another actor where they got a pretty decent named actor to play a classic Marvel hero and kind of really didn't do much with it. I mean,
Mhm.
he had a few lines in the second Ant-Man movie, and that was kind of it. So I'm curious if maybe he'll be back in some capacity because he seemed to have a relationship with the Ghost character in that film, and
I think
so
you just kinda you answered what my answer would be. The fact that they didn't do anything with him in Ant-Man makes it very unlikely they would do anything with him in this because it's an ensemble, yet another ensemble. Because she was in an ensemble film before and
yeah,
really didn't get too much with her character, but if like I said, the 2 detractors from this team is Taskmaster and Ghost. We already know a lot about Yelena, Red Guardian, Bucky, and U.S. Agent, so they could spend more time fleshing out Ghost and Taskmaster, but at what cost? Because they're
yeah,
already to everyone in the audience right now, they're already kind of like the more uninteresting of the characters, right? Just because of how they were portrayed in their first, outings. So I could see them maybe wanting to flush them out more, potentially when Ghost gets the call from Elaine to join the Thunderbolts, maybe she's conflicted and calls up Lawrence Fishburne and talks about it or something, or I could see something like that happening, but at the
sure.
same time, it's like, do you want to have to pay Lawrence Fishburne to come in to do one scene? Like, that's the other thing
Um,
you're stuck with when you, like, get these kinda quote unquote "big name people" to come in,
un
like, they want
unless
something
they've
to do.
already paid him. I mean, I don't know what he signed for when he signed on to be
That's
in
fair.
it. He may have signed on for like a 3 picture deal, and like they may have paid him up front, so he may owe them 2 movies at this point. So who
Mhm.
knows? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all relevant questions, I guess.
Yeah. That's fair. It'd be I would as much as I would like to see let's put it this way, because those characters are in the film, I do hope that they flush them out a little bit more because they need to
Hmm.
make us care about them. And, like, you're already kind of fighting an uphill battle with, I guess, primarily just those 2 characters, right? Because, I mean, Ghost I'll actually to be fair, I'll give them credit because in both of their films, at the end of their films, they did reveal to the audience that you should have some form of quote unquote empathy for their actions because neither of them really chose to do what they were doing as the villain. They were just kind of put into a situation where they became the villain of Ant-Man's story and they became the villain of Black Widow's story. But like neither of them actually chose to do that stuff that they were doing. So
Yeah,
they at least have that benefit that they're kind of living in, like, the gray area, anti-hero area already, much like the other characters are, so, like, there's the reason they were all casted, right? I mean, they're already the anti-hero they're really the only anti-heroes of the MCU at this
yeah.
point in time. There's nobody else they could even cast in the Thunderbolts besides Abomination, and which was what I said before, if you're not gonna do Red Hulk, then Abomination should be your fill-in for Thunderbolts to be your big bruiser character at that point, which I'm sure is still going to happen.
I wonder if they're gonna do
I will note, if you remember, just since I have this up, there are 7 people here. Emil
yeah,
Blonsky said he had his 7 soulmates.
sure,
So, the initial theory of his 7 soulmates being the Thunderbolts is still valid despite what we saw in She-Hulk where it was just 7 chicks.
yeah.
Still valid. There's 7 people here right now. So Emil Blonsky could still be the Red Hulk stand-in for this team.
I'll just say I personally too, I'm gonna set myself up for disappointment by thinking this but I feel like Zemo's gonna be involved in this movie in some way.
If
I
he's
think
not, it's a huge mistake.
having a Thunderbolts having that character already established in the MCU and then doing a Thunderbolts movie and not having even if it's just maybe he does another um Civil War type deal where he manipulates events to bring the Thunderbolts together. Maybe he's working with Elaine. I don't know. I don't know how he's going to play into it. It's just uh, which is an odd thing for them to leave him. Maybe he's not part technically of the Thunderbolts, but I can't believe they're going to do a Thunderbolts movie without him being involved in some way.
They should just have
He's such a
him.
good character.
That's the thing. The fact that they did such a turn with him in Falcon and Winter Soldier, like, dude, nobody cared about that character in Civil
People loved
War.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, but then exactly. Civil War, he was literally noted as one of the worst Marvel villains because his plan didn't really make sense. It was a plan of convenience and coincidence. Like, oh, so you're able to do this thing that enacted these chain of events that you have no way of predicting would actually work out. But they work out because it's a movie, and then you know what I mean. And that's like was the biggest criticism of his character, like throughout the whole thing. He did fine in the movie. I like the guy. It has nothing to do with him. He did what was on the page. I always feel like I have to say that sometimes when I talk like bad about like a character in a movie because people think I'm shitting on an actor, and it's like, dude, guys, or at least I don't know if people think I am because I like to preface this, but like people out there who shit on a character need to realize that the actors just do what they're told. Like Jared Leto did what he was told in The Joker. He may have chose and like prevented ideas to David Ayer to do the things that he did, but at the end of the day, the director said, "Yes, I want you to do that, so you do it." Just remember that. Nevertheless, the fact that they were able to just do such a turn with Zemo and Falcon and Winter Soldier and make him one of like the most beloved characters in the MCU with a simple meme scene of him dancing in a dance club, and then like you literally have a project come up that he is just, comics aside, perfect to be in. Like, if you just look at the MCU, it's like, well, yeah, you gotta have Zemo. We even talked about that before. It was like when we were talking about who would be in Thunderbolts, it was pretty much everyone on here, but include Baron Zemo. That was
Yeah.
it. Like, that's the difference. You have Zemo and you have Abomination instead of Ghost and Taskmaster, and then we called it because I said it was Elaine or Wong, given what Wong was doing. It's Elaine, and then there we go. That would have been the Thunderbolts. It would have been perfect. But nevertheless, we'll see. I still think you might be right. I think one way they could do that is have like Zemo be working with Elaine as like the money man because they established in Falcon Winter Soldier that he's essentially Bruce Wayne. So it's very possible maybe Zemo is Elaine's sugar daddy. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to see it. I'd be down with that. Like, as long as we get Zemo back, which again, nobody would be saying that had his run in Falcon and Winter Soldier not happened. But either way, I don't know. Is
Yep.
there anything else that happened at D23 that you think is worth talking about, or should we move on to the She-Hulk after show or the Lord of the Rings after show? You're
Yeah, I mean,
fresh off both, so
we should definitely move on to those. I'm trying to roll through. I mean, the Mando news. What there was something I wanted to
the
comment
Mando
on.
trailer was
Andrew,
great. I'm just
yes, it
annoyed
was.
that it was leaked 2-3 months ago, and we've just that's what annoyed me more than anything. Like, you think you'd have,
Yeah,
like, a Mando panel or something, like, just a little bit more information, extended trailer,
yeah.
something. And the lack of the Ahsoka trailer as far as the Star Wars news was really, like, again, it was already leaked. Why not just release it? But
Did you know about the shorts, the Jedi shorts animated features that they're doing? Had you already heard about that?
yeah, they released that, like, months ago too.
Did they?
I think
I
there
missed
was
that.
at least at least at Comic-Con, they released, like, a little
Tales of the
teaser.
Jedi or
Yeah.
something? Tales of the Jedi?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that
they
looked
did
cool.
that, they did Bad Batch Season 2, which they announced again, just like
Mhm.
Armor Wars. Like, I'm literally think someone came on stage and said, "Well, we're gonna do the Bad Batch 2." Already knew that. Like, literally been confirmed even before Comic-Con that we knew Bad Batch 2 was coming, so I
The one thing that
baffling.
I didn't know that I was actually I'm hopeful about, and I was also kind of surprised by it. Andor's going to be 24 episodes, and they're going to have a first season and the second season
Yeah,
that they're breaking it down into. I
yep.
didn't realize it was going to be that long. Are the episodes supposed to be hour-long episodes?
I don't know about hour long, but
Because that's a lengthy.
they're
If
supposed to
they're
be
Mando,
pushing it to
like
that.
45 minute, kind of like Mando episodes, you think?
I hope not. I
Okay.
mean, I hope not. But given the fact that that's kinda Disney's modus operandi, like, that's just what they've been doing with every single
Mhm.
one of their shows for whatever reason, I have no idea. Like, you think after at some point they would realize, like, they're just really not working as well as they could be. Like, Lord of the Rings, The Boys, countless other shows. I mean, even go back to network television, they were at least, even with commercials, 45, 47 minutes long, 42 minutes if you really needed to make some extra cash with the commercials. Like, it's like, come on. Like, in like all these shows, you get like 20, 30 minutes of something. Like, I mean, if it's that's the kind of the weird thing about She-Hulk is like She-Hulk is designed to be like this lawyer procedural sitcom show, and even it doesn't seem like it's working at the length that it's at. But yeah, I hope Andor they haven't confirmed the run times, but from everything that they've talked about, it seems like they're going to be pushing the hour-long marker more so than not, because 'cause they're doing, like, the well, at least with season 1, every 3 episodes covers a year leading up to the events of Rogue One, and then that final year is all of season 2. So there's 12 episodes in season 1, so you have 3 episodes, so 4. I actually think I remember someone saying that you essentially from the actual people who made the show, saying that you pretty much get these, like, 2 to 3-hour movies for every 3 episodes, which cover an entire year, so you get, like, these, 4 2 to 3-hour movies for season 1, and then the final season is all of the last year leading up to Rogue One, and it just ends right at the beginning of Rogue One in some capacity. But they didn't say anything about how long those episodes would be. But they
Oh,
did say it was, like, each 3 episodes for season 1 were, like, their own self-contained movies. So, I would expect that to be 2 to 3 hours long.
okay.
But that could also be 90 minutes. That could be 3 30-minute episodes, to your point, because a lot of movies are 90 minutes long.
Okay.
Hope not, though. I'd
Yeah.
like a little bit more, especially because of how good Andor looks. Even though it's a story that, like, for the most part, we know, I mean, not even for the most part, we know exactly where it goes. I still really wanna see what they're doing with Andor because that just all the trailers look phenomenal, and they actually went on location for that show, they didn't just shoot in the volume the whole time, like, and dude, that's coming up here at the end of the month.
Yep.
We'll be adding that on to the after show list, as if there's
Pretty
not
soon we're
enough already.
Yeah, pretty soon we're gonna have, like, 3 after shows throughout the week because
We
we're not
already
gonna be able to
do.
fit it all. Yeah.
I mean, we
Well, no,
just
I'm saying we're gonna have 3
3
different
different, yeah. Yeah.
streams going because we're not gonna be able to fit them all into just the 2.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, the only one as of right now that I really care about is House of the Dragon. That's the only one.
Yeah.
Like, even though I say that as we're about to get into a She-Hulk and Lord of the Rings, but I mean, I like them both, but, like, if I had to choose out of the 3 shows which one I have to watch and I can't, if you're doing, like, Marry, Fuck, Kill, all 3 go to House of the Dragon other than Kill, I guess. So just you can kill the other 2, and I'll just do the rest with House of the Dragon, then I'll be good. Like,
Yeah.
nevertheless, that show's just phenomenal. If you like this clip and want to be a part of the conversation, come back and join us for our live House of the Dragon after shows every Sunday around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, immediately following the premiere of each episode on HBO Max. We're also doing live after shows and Q&As every Friday around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time with a 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time for She-Hulk, Lord of the Rings of Power, and we'll also be doing one for the Star Wars prequel series Andor when that comes out later this month. So if you like those shows, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you'll get notified every time that we go live. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the chat and answering your questions in our next video or live stream. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like the video and let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe.